Hey everybody, I haven't been on in a while and I apologize for that, but I have been watching a lot of news lately, and one of the things I've been noticing is that the news doesn't really report on serious issues so much anymore, and they haven't for a while. So I thought with one particular corporate broadcasting system, I would make the video a little more appropriate, because most of the news anymore seems a lot like a sitcom. So I thought it would be appropriate to put it in its proper context. So I took one segment and threw a laugh track over it at certain points, just to kind of be silly and show how silly the corporate news industry actually is. So for your listening and viewing pleasure, I offer you this.
Rehearsing upon, we know every part by heart. Oh, and you're once, this is it. We'll hit the heights, and on what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.
In fact, we've all heard about the dangers of smoking and secondhand smoke, but researchers have found that tobacco in cigarettes can contain a host of bacteria.
In fact, there's a brand new study that suggests that simply handling an unlit cigarette could expose you to serious respiratory infections. Joining us now is Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel. He's also a member of the Fox News medical A-team. Good to see you. Thanks for being here, Doc. Okay, so this is a little bit crazy. We all know that inhaling cigarette smoke is hazardous to your health. But now, just being around a pack of cigarettes that might be sitting on the desk in front of us, that's bad too?
Well, I think you'd have to touch it. But actually, let me explain this. First of all, the study is using new techniques where they can look for bacteria using genetic probes. This is really the state of the art in the future. This is really great technology. Yeah, it's like Avatar we were talking about before. I mean, they don't actually have to find the bacteria. They hunt for DNA from bacteria that say, these are the bacteria. But I'll have to tell you something. I can see how this can happen, because when you're growing tobacco, it's handled by a lot of different people. You can get it into the crops. You're not surveying it the way you do food. So it gets into the cigarette, and people think, when you smoke it, you're going to burn it and kill the bacteria. Right. It doesn't happen, because the bacteria can reside on a different part of the cigarette, and the smoke, they hitch a ride on the smoke. Bacteria hitch a ride on the smoke, get into the air, can get into your lungs. Your lungs are already being worn down by the toxins, and you can get an infection. I believe this. I don't think it's so far-fetched.
Okay, so because I was going to ask you, and typically you always have to look at who's behind these studies. There are a lot of folks that are not happy with the big tobacco and things like that, so you trust those behind the study.
This is a researcher in Maryland, and it's published in an NIH study. So the National Institute of Health is behind this. I believe it. They wouldn't tend to go against the tobacco companies per se, although that's a really good point. But there's a big if here. I want to raise the if. We don't know if it actually causes infection, but it's bad enough to find out that bacteria might be in your cigarette. You could be exposed to it just from the air, not only from smoking it. That's bad enough. I believe that part. I don't know if there's enough bacteria to actually cause lung infection.
So what's going to happen now? I mean, we have seen people who smoke cigarettes. We have seen rules and regulations imposed on them, on cigarettes, on the cigarette industry. Are people going to start crying now for more regulations in light of a study like this?
Rick, that's a starting point. I think they first got to figure out, they got to now check the probe to see if it gets into the lungs. Let's see if it's the same bacteria that actually end up in infections. Then we got to clamp down on this. By the way, we're talking health reform. How about a tax rebate for not being a smoker?
That's a good idea.
That's a whole other topic. We'll see you next week.
We'll do next week. But I really believe that this is something to watch out for. Cigarettes are really bad for you, whether they're carrying bacteria, whether it's the toxins that can cause cancer.
But what are we talking about here? What kind of illnesses are we talking about? Like
okay, so pneumonia, bronchitis, even some kind of diarrheal illnesses. You can get a lot of pretty severe infections from the bacteria they're finding in cigarettes. These are powerful bacteria. The study author was very surprised. She thought she was going to find bacteria, but not necessarily the bad guys. She found the bad guys.
I just felt there's bacteria everywhere. I mean, Julie Banderas was sitting right here, sneezing all over the place.
She was.
And bacteria is everywhere.
We wiped it down, though, after
Well, she's pregnant. I hope Julie Banderas doesn't get sick here.
She's a healthy young lady.
Yes.
Dr. Mark Siegel with a story that a lot of people are going to be talking about. Thank you very much for being here.